So we are going to have this second very interesting time to have a word of the day. And so today we have chosen the word of enunciation, and it's a kind of in between also to make some kind of transition between yesterday and today with the question of places. And with this, yesterday we saw with this question of okay. I don't know what this is, but it's nice. Sorry, I'm coming back to seriousness. Okay. So yesterday we saw this question of noises, and it was a kind of interesting thing because there is a lot of noises. Sometimes it's difficult to enter in, sometimes it's difficult to understand what is at stake, and we have also all this type of multitude, so new way to think about ourselves in the world, in society, in between us. And also we saw that maybe it could be interesting to speculate about how to play and in the present time, taking into account different things, the changing ground and the changing perspective in all the way that we are organizing, living, etc. The fact that we are now and in a kind of struggle, and in a way it's a permanent struggle. And the third point, it's how it's possible in this project to also think about the possibility to imagine a new form of political and cultural organization. And it's to say something we saw yesterday, what may be more organic, more trans, in a very different way of thinking of trans, more self-organized, and maybe producing something that it's kind of its own way to regenerate itself, and its own way to have its own governmentality. And that's why at this point we have chosen enunciation, because for us it's kind of entry point in this. We have these noises, we have this multitude, we have all these changes, and how can we enter in, and how can we find something in a cultural way to enter that materials and enter in that changes. And regarding this, we can see that we have the question of how are we entering this changing point, or are we analyzing this? And sometimes we are saying that how can we denounce also what is happening? And the enunciation is in a way a fact to go further. It's very important to denounce, it's very important to not speculate like this, but to really take into account the dominative process, the forces, etc. All we saw yesterday afternoon, for instance, all this kind of very struggle when you are in periphery. But maybe we can what we can try today is to taking into account this. How can we go further and imagine something different and find a way to enunciate it? And enunciation for us is something about articulate new cultural meanings. And regarding this, we could have 3 points regarding this question of enunciation. The first one is to imagine that enunciation as a kind of survival strategy in the world today. Because if we are thinking about identity not as a fixity, but something that it's dynamic, something that it's hybrid, at the moment enunciation is helping us in going in that kind of hybridity. And it's helping us also to imagine a very different kind of enunciation of meanings that it's in a sense in not fixed and in perpetual displacement. And displacement is not something that it's in opposition. It's something that maybe it's slightly different, and this slightly difference going to another kind of difference, etc. And this kind of approaching a more diverse way to say that. The second point is to say that maybe we can see enunciation also as a negotiating process, because sometimes we are entering this in a way that we think that there is a only way to enunciate something, only way of meaning, only way to say something, and that at the end it stay like this. But if we are looking this more as a negotiation process, it helps us to enter in a discussion, not opposing the thing, but implicates mutually. And it's a very different thing, because it's not to have a binary opposition, it's to think about how can we, in diversity, implicate ourselves in such a negotiation. It's to say negotiate changes, questioning meaning, contesting culture, displaced, and maybe displace the question of opposition rather than reverse it, and always confronting in things. Third point could be also to see enunciation as a way to regain power, and to regain power each one first, and in a collective also, but not a kind of power that is something that you have the philosopher Isabelle Stenger. She's saying that elle appelle mode majeur in English is major key, and here also it's to say that maybe it's interesting to imagine how can we thinking articulation, new agencies, but in a minoritarian way, and escaping also this question of centrality, of maybe just take the perspective to imagine it differently, and not to stay also in this kind of binary confrontation. And to make the 2 minutes, and to make the links with today, it's a direct consequences, because if we are thinking about in that way about what constitutes culture, or culture is producing, how meanings are questioning and evolving, etc. Consequently, we could say that maybe we need to reopen and re-enlarge the way we are seeing cultural places. Because at the end, it's not something that it's physical places like this building. It's something different, where you can have the starting point if you have many people. So many different enunciate reposition. You have also stages, and it's plateau, mais ça, I don't know how to translate this. But Ivor said stages, so I follow Ivor because it's a real English here. And so very taking this question of where these negotiations are taking place, where these different meaning are encountering themselves, or are they negotiating, and how it's structure ourselves, even if you are not seeing it, because it's easy to see a building, it's easy to see cultural places, etc. But it's more difficult to determine, to find, to track what is constitutive of our cultural representation, of cultural identification, and how to act on this. So maybe, to imagine where identities are performed, and where in a very material also sense. And that could mean also to imagine the when we are saying this, it's a way also to enter in the project in a kind of, if we are saying transmaking and place making, it's to find ways to sustain our collective in a different way, to contribute also to that kind of negotiation, and not only to think that we are negotiating in one place, but how it's possible to make circulate also that kind of negotiation, and how translocality could also be another way to imagine also that kind of building of meanings. So that's 10 minutes. So that was for the day, and it's very important for us to really enlarge this perspective, and because it's a way for us to collectively to imagine maybe differently how can we engage in it, and how can we take part, and yeah, sorry. So, good day.